Hey, what's going on, guys? How y'all doing? This is Mitchell with FF Real Talk, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this video or not. I had to work from home today. Everybody right now is aware of the wreckage that's done by Hurricane Irma, and though I'm not in Florida or in the Caribbean, I'm in Georgia, and we were highly affected by it too. It didn't do too bad to us, but it's wreckage all over. If you go outside and drive, it's all over the place, and it canceled a lot of our work and this, that, or the other, but I had to work from home today, so I didn't know if I would have a chance to do this, but I'm powering through it to do it for y'all because I know I wanted to get week one done regardless to if I do any others going forward. It's just really going to depend on my schedule and based on the viewership. We'll see how it goes, but I definitely wanted to do this one right here, and we're going to get started right into it. But before we do, first thing, I just want to point out the same thing. It seems like I always point out on the first week of these videos, someone significant or someone's significant get hurt. And in particular this week, the most powerful hit of the week is obviously the loss of David Johnson. If anybody drafted him, he went either number 1 or number 2, and to lose that is always destructive. Just to quote Matthew Berry, one person I definitely used to listen to, I don't listen to him as much anymore. He said a long time ago, I remember him saying this: you can't win a fantasy season in the first week, but you can definitely lose it. You can't win a fantasy season with your first pick, but can definitely lose it with your first pick. Losing David Johnson is going to be huge for who's ever drafted him. And even though he's designated to come back off the IR, that's not going to do anything to help your fantasy season. It's going to be almost one of those things where at some point you're going to have to determine if you're going to have to cut him or not. Right now, it's enough out there on the wire, and if you drafted a decent enough team, you can hold him down for the next few weeks to see how things come up. You never know. He might be a real quick healer, and he can come back somewhere between up of like 8 weeks or whatever, a little bit after what we thought Ezekiel Elliott would be. But what we're hearing is 2 to 4 months. And if it's like what we're hearing it is, it's going to be bad. But you can't immediately drop a player of that caliber, especially when he's your first pick. So I feel for anybody who has him in 11 teams. I'm in 10 ESPN teams and 1 Yahoo league that I'm in. I don't own David Johnson in a single league. Got a lot of Le'Veon Bell shares, but I don't have a single share of David Johnson. So I cut a lucky break with that, but it's a lot of you out there that's going to suffer for that. But we're going to try to see if we can get you some balance and be able to get some people to grab. And before we get into those, one other thing I want to point out. When it comes to the waiver wire, although the waiver wire is never more plentiful than it is after week 1. You've got so many players out there that are on this list that I'm about to do that are going to be something and might not be something, and then more are going to emerge as the weeks come, but it's never more plentiful than it is right now. The waiver wires are going to be full, and everybody's going to be able to feast, whether you got waiver priority 1 or 10. You'll be able to get somebody who's worth something this week. So make sure you're doing your due diligence and use this list as a guide. So we're going to get right into it. The first one is Cooper Kupp. He's right now 12.5% owned, and the percentages are ESPN, so it'll probably be a variance between that, whoever you play with. But he's 12.5% owned in ESPN leagues. He had 4 catches for 76 yards, 1 TD. That's good production, and he was doing it all in the preseason. A lot of people thought that it was going to be Sammy Watkins. It was going to assume everything. I tell you, this makes sense to me because of the fact that we got Jared Goff, who shined in week 1. He's going to have to get some comfort level stuff, and he's got a possession receiver like Kupp, and it's making his life easier, and you saw it work. This guy needs to be picked up ASAP, as well as the next guy who we're about to get into soon. This guy shouldn't be anywhere less than, come Thursday, this guy should be 75% owned or more. If he's out there and you have some receivers like, say, Kendall Wright, or you lost Kevin White, or it's a number of people he can overtake. That's a guy you want to grab. Just like the next guy, Kenny Galladay. Only 5% owned at the present, 5.3% owned. He got 62% of the offensive snaps, 4 catches, 69, and 2 touchdowns. You saw all of this in the preseason as well. And I feel for Marvin Jones. I don't know if he's going to supplant him as the number 2 soon, but he's going to definitely be a part of this offense. And even though it's a ton of mouths to feed in that offense with the receivers and the running backs, this guy is going to be a great compliment to him. And you know Stafford loves to use his weapons. So you're going to have some lean weeks with him because Stafford's going to have to spread it around. So it's not going to always be this plentiful, but this is a guy you definitely want to keep a lookout on and have as well. My number 3 is Tariq Cohen. Only 4.4% owned. Before we even get to his numbers, who even knew this guy? Honestly, who knew this guy besides Chicago Bears fans before this week? I heard the name, but I knew nothing about him. This situation is extremely scary to me. 12 targets. We got a receiving touchdown and 66 rush yards. Let me tell you why this is concerning. For every Jordan Howard owner, I know you guys are panicking. But this is that point where every Jordan Howard owner needs to have this guy. You should skip everybody who would be before this going for him if you own Jordan Howard. This is a scary thought because I heard a lot of people having their thoughts about this, to whether Jordan Howard would be who he was last year, would it translate and whatever. Now, mind you, this is just one game, and he only received a small market share comparatively. But doing that much targets-wise, that means that they trusting him in the passing game far more so than it looks like they're trusting Jordan Howard, at least early. That is concerning for somebody that was drafted late first round, early second round. So I feel for you guys too. But you have a chance to grab up the best handcuff that you could get right now. He needs to be heavily owned after this week as well. Could it turn out to be a 1 week thing where it was a game plan thing, or where it was something that opened up because no one has any film on him? Maybe. I'm willing to take the over on the fact that he's going to be used far more than anyone would ever imagine. So that's a guy you definitely want to have. Number 4 is Kerwin Williams. Okay, we just talked about David Johnson, but I don't have any stats for him. It's none to even mention. But we can't get too excited about this Williams thing, because my personal belief is this is going to be a true committee. It doesn't look like Williams is good enough to where he's going to take the mantle and run with it already. He might, but it looks like this first week without Johnson is going to be a committee situation. But it looks like who's going to head up this committee, at least for the foreseeable future, is Kerwin Williams. So any David Johnson owner, you want to grab him. So again, this is sort of like the Tariq Cohen situation where you can't expect too much, especially early out, and especially if it's going to be a headed committee. But you got to take the flyer on them and see what happens. Number 5, Buck Allen. Same as the Kerwin Williams situation, same as the Tariq Cohen situation. The only difference is the fact that we know Buck Allen. Buck Allen is not that great. He's had his chances to shine year after year after year. But to me, he's a lot like Jerick McKinnon. He's had number 1 opportunity, but he's just not good enough. When a player like Woodhead goes down, and Woodhead's going to be gone for a while, I don't even remember. I don't even know offhand. I hadn't looked that up. Is he gone to the IR for the season, or if it's just a multiple week thing? But either way, Buck Allen, if he was good enough, he wouldn't, Terrence West maybe not have been acquired, and he definitely wouldn't be backing Terrence West up. That tells you all you need to know. But Terrence West has had slight durability issues, and though Terrence West does do some in the passing game, they might try to use Buck Allen with Woodhead gone. So that's another guy you want to grab if you own Terrence West or if you own Woodhead. Number 6, tight end, Charles Clay. If you saw Tyrod Taylor, a lot of people shied away from him this week because of the concussion, because they thought it was going to be an all LaShawn McCoy game. But I knew it coming in. This guy's on many of my rosters in my leagues because I was able to get Charles Clay very late without having to spend huge equity on a tight end. And I knew it was going to work because he's healthy for a change. Just like I thought, Tyrod uses a guy that he knows well, and it worked out. 4 catches, 53 and a touchdown. This isn't going to be a fluke, I don't think. If he stays healthy, this is going to be consistent dosage of Charles Clay. So if you got tight end issues, if you lost, say you got CJ Fedorowicz and you lost him for the year, or just any of these people, like a lot of people are mad with this Hunter Henry thing, nothing happened. And that's always been an iffy situation with Gates in the picture. But if you don't have a tight end you trust, like say a Kobe Fleener or something who had a decent game, pick Charles Clay up and put him on your bench. What was that? 6, number 7, Chris Carson. Okay. This is much like every running back on this list. Nothing to write home about, nothing of note. He had 6 carries and 39 yards. That's nothing. But what is noteworthy is Eddie Lacy's numbers. 5 carries for 3 yards. If you saw any of those 5 carries, you saw what's looking like complete ridiculousness. If you're familiar with any of the daily fantasy stuff and you listen to people, you might listen to Adam Levitan. He often calls Todd Gurley the Trent Richardson 2.0, and he was definitely saying before this game here, Eddie Lacy is Trent Richardson 2.0. Eddie Lacy's done, man. There's no, if you have him on a team, he's worth cutting this week, especially for the people that I've named above this list. I'd rather have Chris Carson going forward for the upside alone over Eddie Lacy. This is a guy, Seattle likes to run the ball. So, CJ Prosise is a nice player to have. Thomas Rawls is hurt. We don't know when he's going to be back. This Carson guy looks like a guy that they're definitely going to implement. So if you want a little piece of this and you own Eddie Lacy and are willing to cut bait, I'm all for it. You can cut him now and get Carson. It's like I said, don't expect much, but Eddie Lacy is probably going to be dead weight this season, and that's just my honest opinion. Number 8, Tyrod Taylor. 224 and 2 touchdowns. Like I said earlier, a lot were scared to use him due to the concussions. And with losing Sammy Watkins, a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen, what was going on, this, that, or the other. But Taylor has everything that he's going to be needing going forward, I think, personally. He's got LaShawn McCoy, who's going to have the box jammed up, and he's got Charles Clay. And whatever materializes from it, whether it be Jordan Matthews or whatever, is going to be gravy. But he's going to have room to operate this year. If he stays healthy, he's going to be a nice quarterback, definitely a good second quarterback to have. His ownership is very low right now. It won't be like that for long. So if you need a second quarterback, and I'm one of those that don't draft a second quarterback usually, I might be taking a plunge and grabbing him to add him to my roster. Okay, who we got next is, matter of fact, this should have been flipped. I'm sorry. Carson Wentz. 41% owned right now, 307 yards and a touchdown. I knew last year that he made a decent leap. I didn't know he was going to be this much better. He's got a ton of weapons around him. He seems to be confident and poised in the pocket. Carson Wentz is going to be that dude going forward. I honestly feel he could easily end up as a top 10 quarterback this year. And did you see that list of all the guys who finished top 10 above the 10 drafted players, like Tom Brady's, Aaron Rodgers, and all the top 10 players? So many people, from Bradford to Jared Goff to Wentz. It's ridiculous who all finished among the top this week. But either way, Carson Wentz probably will not be on waivers after this week. If you own someone like Carson Palmer, who looked awful, if you own someone just right now, if you just need to back up somebody that you don't necessarily trust, Carson Wentz is the guy for sure. So definitely keep an eye out on that. Who we got next is a split between two. It's Easley and Allen Hurns. And you know why that's for? That's because they lost Allen Robinson for the year. This is going to be a coin flip of which one to pick. I would go with Hurns because Hurns is more established. You know that he can be very, very dangerous in the passing game. But it takes opportunity for him to get it. Now he has it. Easley, we're still waiting for him to emerge. It's been years, and we'll see. So either one of them two, something's going to happen because it looks like Blake Bortles is going to throw, whether it's successful or not. So if you want to take that risk and you need a wide receiver bad, one of those two, I would go with Hurns first due to the fact that he's more so established. The next up is a tight end 3B. Austin Hooper at 51%. Jesse James, I didn't even get his percent. And Zack Miller, same with it. Both of them are virtually unowned. One thing, just straight up, Austin Hooper should not be under 80% or higher owned after this week. He was one of my favorites in drafts coming in because you were able to get him on the end of the tail end as Mr. Irrelevant pick or pulling him off waivers. He is going to be used without Jacob Tamme there. He is going to be heavily used. Anyone who takes the plunge to get him now is going to be very happy and very rewarded as the year goes on. Jesse James, it's because so much is accounted for with Antonio Brown and Martavis Bryant that he has options open for him to feast, and he did. 6 catches, 41 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This isn't an athletic guy. This isn't the greatest tight end out there, but he's a big, big target, and Ben likes him, and you saw it in spurts last year. This could be somewhat fool's gold. You definitely ain't going to see this type of game every week. But again, tight end is a position that's almost like defense where a lot of people stream week to week. If he's got a good matchup, he might be someone to grab. Same as Zack Miller, 4 catches and 39. He is going to be even more valuable to me than Jesse James because of all the loss in Chicago. Kevin White, gone. Kendall Wright, not good. This whole situation with the running backs, we don't know what's up. And Mike Glennon at quarterback, he's going to need the safety valve. And I see Zack Miller eating this season off of that. So he's going to benefit from this injury-plagued situation. So if, again, tight end roulette, if you need somebody week to week, that'll be somebody to grab on a good one. Okay, next up is Nelson Galore, 16% owned. There's a lot of buzz about him in the preseason. He was having his best camp since entering the league, and a lot of people wasn't believing it because he's got that dedication issues. He seems to not be all that mature at times, this, that, and the other, but it looks like it's translating. He had 6 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. That right there is good stuff. A lot of people were thinking it might be Torrey Smith, but it looks like Galore might be that option, behind Zach Ertz or whatever. So I tell you, just keep an eye on him. If you don't grab him, keep an eye. I'd like to see 2-3 weeks of this, but that's something to keep an eye on for sure. And like I said, the way Carson Wentz is playing, I wouldn't be surprised if Nelson Galore has a surprisingly solid season. And the last ad is probably one of my favorite ads. Alvin Kamara, 5.9% owned. There was a lot of buzz with him in the preseason. And though last night he didn't do much numerically, 4 rushes for, 7 rushes for 18 yards rather, but the 4 catches for 20 yards and 11 total touches, while AP got nothing out there. And it might not change because it looks like him and Sean Payton are not going to cut it. And Mark Ingram, he had more snaps than him. Alvin Kamara was out for 50% of the snaps, which was more than Ingram. And he had like 31 touches and Ingram had like 26. To me, the real question is almost like the Eddie Lacy situation. What in the world are we going to do with owning Adrian Peterson? I have a league where I was trying to say, well, at some point, I'm probably going to cut one. I own Mark Ingram and I own AP. This has made that a terrible situation because I can definitely see Alvin Kamara being their most valuable player in the backfield because he looks fresh and explosive, although obviously he's young. But it's something about his aura out there last night, though the numbers don't dictate it, is they like him and they're going to use him. So that's a guy I definitely, in my position, I'm almost willing to, after second week, of what I see, to cut Adrian Peterson all the way around. If somebody did it this week, which a lot of people are going to do, I promise, because of those lack of carries, if you grab Alvin Kamara, you might be rewarded. So yeah, but that's the end of the list. And tell me what y'all think about it. If y'all disagree, you can hit up with comments at the bottom. Always, as usual, hit me up on Twitter if you have any questions. If you got any start sits in the coming week or whatever, when you get to Saturday and Sunday you want to ask before kickoff, feel free to do that. And feel free to follow me on there as well. So again, hit me up with comments. And like I say, we'll see you in week 2. Good luck to you. Have a good one.